Sound check 1, 2, 3. Sound check 1, 2, 3.
Perfect. Hello and welcome to the City of Hamilton Emergency and Community Services meeting for today is February 8th, 2024. Excited to have you all here, whether you're in the room or watching online. To get us started today, I'd like to call the meeting to order, remind folks that their devices should be on a non-audible function, including their laptops, which go ding ding. And make sure that you're an e-scribe so we can vote. Quorum is present. Madam Clerk, are there any changes to the agenda today?
Yes, Chair, we have a few changes to the agenda. Under item 12, notices of motion, we have 12.1, the 2024 Frostbites Festival celebrating community building in Ward 3. And there has been a request to waive the rules, and that will be introduced. And item 12.2, development of a policy for the use of Indigenous images and themes in the City of Hamilton facilities. That will remain a notice. Under general information, we have amendments to the outstanding business list for ENCS.
Thank you for those changes. Now that we know what's on our agenda, could I get a mover and a seconder to approve that agenda so we can get going? Thank you, Councillor Wang and Councillor Nan. And that vote will be up shortly. And that vote, I'm assuming, carries 5-0. There we are. Next, Councillor Maureen Wilson, thank you for moving our minutes. Councillor Kretsch, thank you for seconding.
Hang on.
Any discussion on our minutes? Yes.
Through the chair, declarations of interest.
Oh,
first.
well, why don't we make sure that there's no declarations of interest before we get into those minutes? Not seeing any. Thank you, Councillors Maureen Wilson and Kretsch, for moving and seconding those minutes. Any discussion on the minutes? Not seeing any, so that vote will be up shortly. And that is up. And that too carries 5-0. Thank you, everyone. On to our discussion items. First up today, we have 10.1, renewal of the Beasley Community Center operating agreement. This is in Ward 2. Can I get a mover and a seconder to put the report on the floor? And Councillor Kretsch, I understand you have an amendment to the report as well. Yeah, Councillor Kretsch, are you moving the report? Thank you. Councillor Wang seconding. And just going to open up a speakers list on the report itself. Yeah, Councillor Kretsch.
Yeah, I have an amendment if it's possible that Legislative Coordinator Kolar could put that amendment up. It's just a change to the recommendations, and I just want to flag that I worked on this with staff and briefly can say that we have a very unique relationship. I need a seconder, obviously. Sorry, I should start there. If somebody's willing to second.
Councillor Wang is your seconder. Thank you.
Thanks. So what we're doing here is we're just decreasing the length of the operating agreement a bit so we can revisit it in 2 years, because we have a very specific relationship at this community center where we have a private provider offering some of the services the city would normally offer. And a lot of the things they're doing are also tied to provincial grants. So we want to be able to investigate, okay, how do we manage this relationship going forward, ensure that the city's risks are protected when it comes to provincial grants, because if anything happened to the non-for-profit provider, those provincial grants would go with them. So how can the city ensure that the grants that are tied to this might still be available to us? And they're going to look across the other recreation facilities and report back on which others have third-party operators, including the location, types of services that are being provided, partnership benefits, and kind of do a holistic look at this to make sure that there aren't other places where this is the case. Also, having a conversation with the Hamilton Wentworth District School Board to understand the need for this arrangement, where right now we're paying people to open and close doors, but only at this community center. So staff just want to evaluate it across all of our assets and say, like, is this really, really unique? And if it is, why, and why not in the other similar spaces we have that are attached to elementary schools? So this gives us that 2-year timeline to investigate all this and then come back here and potentially change some of these things to deal with that and deal with the quirkiness. So I hope that explains it, and apologies for not having circulated this very much in advance, but I just personally forgot that amendments don't show up on agendas. So I thought it was going to be on the agenda and forgot it wasn't. So hopefully it makes sense. You have the language before you. Again, staff worked on this with me and are supportive of this according to their emails back and forth.
Thank you, Councillor Kretsch. Just to confirm, so changing the 5-year period to a 2-year period and then adding 2 additional clauses for future conversations with the school board and staff report backs. Or the key changes there. Not seeing anyone on the speakers list. Going to give the folks in the room another moment to review those changes, and appreciation for working with staff in advance as opposed to kind of starting that right now. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions with that. Happy to call the vote on the report. It was moved by, on the amendment to the report. It was moved by Councillor Kretsch, seconded by Councillor Wang, who are also our mover and seconder on the report itself. And so vote coming up right now in front of you for just the amendment. And that carries 5-0. And now back to the original the recommendations in the report as amended. Any further discussion? Not seeing any. We have the same mover seconder. And that votes up. And that also carries 5-0. Thank you, everyone. With that, we're on to 10.2, which is updates to the emergency plan. And I do believe we have a bit of a staff overview to start that off, or am I? No. Happy to jump into it. Are we able to get a quick overview? I know it's a yearly update, and then I think we can do questions from there. Thank you.
So through the chair, Fire Chief Dave Cunliffe, happy to provide a bit of an overview. So the Emergency Management and Civil Protection Act here in the province of Ontario stipulates that each municipality and the City of Hamilton has a emergency plan and an emergency management program. And on an annual basis, the Act requires that both the management plan and the emergency plan are adopted by bylaw. So in essence, this is a housekeeping item. On an annual basis, we do a review of the emergency management program and the emergency management plan. And this was conducted last December. Out of that, we came up with about 5 items that need to be updated and have been updated in the emergency plan. One of which was based on council's direction. Back in January of last year, you may remember that we brought the emergency management plan and provided some context and some overview for council. And out of that, there was direction to take a look at, is there an opportunity to include a vulnerable sector liaison into the plan, something that wasn't there. We went away and brought that back as a recommendation, and in July we got council's approval to make that change, and the plan was updated, and we've put a vulnerable sector liaison into what we have the emergency social services branch within the operations section of the EOC. In addition to that, through COVID, we had identified and utilized a position called in the Emergency Operations Center of a council liaison position. That was very beneficial, and so we have made that position now permanent within the emergency operations structure for future use. Additionally, we have a position within the Emergency Operations Center management team that deals with human resources and labor management, and that typically was staffed by the Executive Director of Human Resources. We've now, based on recommendation, changed that position to the Director of Employee Health and Labor Relations instead of the Executive Director. So again, a housekeeping item. We also have identified through the most recent city exercise that the fire department actually can play a more expanded role in terms of providing information when it comes to evacuation zones based on what's happening with the incident, plume information, also direction in terms of how the incident may grow or be downsized. So we've put that role in and identified it within the plan. So in essence, those are the changes that are being made, and we're just looking for this committee and then council to endorse the changing of the bylaw to accept those changes.
Thank you so much, Chief Cunliffe, for that overview. I see Councillor Nan's looking to get on the speakers list.
Thank you, through you, Chair, and thank you, Chief, for the overview. Appreciating the integration of the vulnerable sector liaison, and recognizing this might not be a question that is addressed within the bylaw, and might be more of an operationals question. In terms of the equity piece, one of the feedback points that came through during the pandemic was how important it was for residents to have access to information in languages other than English in a close to real-time capacity. So if I could, through you, just a comment or question, or the question to staff, and if they have any comments back on terms of how that's been integrated in, or is that work yet to be initiated?
So through the chair to the councillor, so that work is being done from a Hamilton Fire Department perspective. We're looking at that in terms of actually updating the types of languages that we're providing our fire prevention, public safety, as well as the emergency management material in. But directly in terms of the question, in terms of getting this out during an emergency, the communications group within the operations division would be doing that. So we would be working together to make sure that we have that covered. I will, in fact, take that back to make sure that they directly understand the request and the need for that, and we'll make sure that it's incorporated.
I really appreciate that and look forward to the future update on real-time translation during emergencies. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nan. Councillor Maureen Wilson.
Thank you, Chair. Appreciate this. Again, it may be an operational as opposed to a bylaw, but I just want to make sure I understand fully the capacity and what is the vulnerable sector liaison. Chair, for those in the public who are listening, the inclusion of an equity piece came about with committee and council being introduced to this, and at the time it was just following on the heels of a major storm in Buffalo, which demonstrated clearly the inequitable outcome for persons both in relation to race and income when catastrophe hits. So with that in mind, I'm just trying to make sure I fully understand if it's within the purview of this discussion. And my other subsequent part to that is we received the first of two reports at Public Health, and it showed a clear a growth of inequity in terms of health outcomes. We're going to be getting in June the sort of second, more detailed report on our population health, which provides almost a mapping of inequity. So I'm just wanting to know if I could receive kind of an update of how that information is informing this work and what is or who is the vulnerable sector liaison. Thank you.
So through the chair to the councillor, I can speak specifically to the role that this position plays within the emergency operations group as well as the emergency plan. So the role was set up to deal with folks that are deemed vulnerable prior to the incident or prior to the incident happening, and what the impact of the incident has on them. And also then in terms of the folks that are made vulnerable based on the incident itself. The whole focus was to have a role that takes that focus within the Emergency and Social Services Control Group, so that we are making sure that we provide the necessary help and assistance to those folks based on the specific emergency or incident that's taking place.
Thank you. If I could ask then through the chair to Chief Cunliffe, the connection with the population health information, would you care to comment on that?
Through the chair to the councillor, because of the way the Emergency Operations Center is set up, public health is at the table in the operations group, and they would be then liaising and working with the social services group to make sure that the information that they have and have gathered is being utilized at that time of the emergency.
Thank you for that assurance. Thank you, Chief.
There we go. I just got to learn to press over there. Thank you, Councillor Maureen Wilson. I'm not seeing any further questions. Thank you, Chief Cunliffe, for expanding and giving us that overview. Councillor, I don't think I got a mover or a seconder. Councillor Nan and Councillor Maureen Wilson, are you okay to move and second this one? And if there's no more discussion, we can call for that vote. And following the trend, that passes 5-0. Thank you, everyone. Moving on to motions and notices of motion. Councillor Nan, you're first up at 12.1, and I understand you're seeking to waive the rules today. Do you have a seconder to waive the rules?
Yes, I do. Chair, Councillor Maureen Wilson will be seconding my waiving of the rules, and the purpose is timeliness as it relates to the release of funds to support a festival that is taking place next week.
Thank you, Councillor Nan. I'm seeing moved by yourself and I believe seconded by Councillor Maureen Wilson, you said, and that vote's up. 5-0. The rules are waived. Councillor Nan, are you able to introduce your motion and your seconder?
Yes, same seconder as well. Through you, Chair, this is 2024 Frostbites Festival celebrating community building in Ward 3. The preamble really does cover it off in terms of this festival now being in its 8th year here in Hamilton, and the Morelli Rec Center in Ward 3 is being used as a hub for not only activation, so the use of public space and city facilities to gather community and celebration of art, but also gathering and reconnection. And last year it was really beautiful to see the way in which the space was activated, to see the flow between the festival as well as rec center users and rec center staffs was really special, really about activating those public spaces and creating belonging and fostering connection for Ward 3 residents, although all residents across the city are welcome to participate in the Frostbites program that will be taking place at the Morelli Center. The funds that I'm allocating, Chair, are the Ward 3 non-property tax revenue account, also known as the Bell Tower Fund previously, and it's used at the discretion of the Ward 3 Councillor's Office specifically to empower resident-led initiatives that benefit local community and harness resilience and belonging in the ward. And so the therefore be it resolved, which somehow is missing in the copy in front of me. Therefore, be it resolved that $2,500 be allocated from the Ward 3 non-property tax reserve account 33016099603 to the Hamilton Festival Theatre Company as a fiscal sponsor for the Frostbites Festival, and B, that the mayor and city clerk be authorized and directed to execute any required agreements and ancillary documents with such terms and conditions in a form that's satisfactory to the solicitor, and with an emphasis that the programming that this will support is in partnership with the diversity of community organizations, including ACA, Hamilton Aerial Group, L'Arche, Immigrant Worker Center, and Centre Francophone, as well as Indigenous consultants and Keeping Six to ensure the programming has been developed in a way that the community can participate most welcomed and in a way that is informed by the diverse experiences of our community members. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nan, for the work on that motion. I'm not seeing anyone on our speakers list, so thank you for also helping onboard us into what's going on here. I think we're able to then just call for a vote. And that vote's right up in front of us. Here we go. That passes 5-0 with one pokey vote in there. Our next item, Councillor Wang, I believe you're keeping this as a notice?
Yes. Do you want me to speak to it?
This has already been from a previous meeting, right? And you're just keeping it on the list, so you can speak to it as much as you'd like to, but we don't need you to add anything.
No.
Okay, perfect. We'll
okay.
keep that as a notice.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. And then we're moving right on to 13.1, which is our changes to the outstanding business list. And thank you, Councillor Kretsch, for, I'm assuming, moving. And looking for, I'll second that. There we go. I can get on the board. So moved and seconded. Any comments on the outstanding business list today? Sending some stuff to GIC because we've switched housing over. That makes sense to folks. Okay. I think we can call for that vote. As the weird noises come in from out the room. The vote's now up. And that carries 5-0. We don't have any private and confidential matters today, unless I missed any general information or other business from the general manager, our bench here, and I'm seeing lots of shakes of head no, then I think we're on adjournment. And moved by Councillor Wang and seconded by Councillor Nan or Councillor Kretsch, whoever wants it. We are good to go. And that vote's up. And we are adjourned today. Our next Emergency and Community Services meeting will be on March 21st or 2nd, whatever the Thursday is. I believe it's the 21st, as we will not be having an Emergency Community Services meeting on February 22nd.